breaking the wall of climate communication through creativity. Cecilia Mañosa Nyblon, University of Exeter, Great Britain.
Does this look familiar? This is a type of graph policymakers get from scientific advisors about global warming. This is the way the climate crisis is being communicated. The scientific data is very important, but missing from the graph are the stories of the people on the front line of climate change. What we have is not just a climate crisis, we also have a climate communication problem. We need to change the way we communicate so we can all act on the climate crisis. Climate communication needs human communication. World leaders, decision makers, and civil society gather at the COP Climate Change Conference every year. They make agreements and try to monitor and reduce global warming. Their decisions impact communities across the world. Sometimes it's the stories of those who are not seen, heard, or recognized on the front line of climate change that need to be amplified at this conference. That's why We Are the Possible program connects scientists, health experts, poets, artists, teachers and children from the UK, Azerbaijan, the United Arab Emirates and Egypt and around the world to co-create new climate stories. These stories bring home the reality of the changing climate and its impact on communities and the natural world. They also show how we can use our imaginations to imagine a different future and to adapt and find solutions. Imagine being able to speak to the policymakers of 197 nations at COP. This is what we do. We speak culture to power. And in doing so, we have created a blueprint for adaptation and translation, connecting disciplines, countries, cultures, and backgrounds. This is a transformation. We took theatre to top policymakers, to the COP UK Pavilion for the first time ever. We took co-created climate stories and published them into bilingual anthologies. We deliver live, immersive poetry, art, music to 10,000 people at COP28. We launched a Schools Across the Ocean program and created the first climate education toolkit for teachers in the United Arab Emirates. And in doing so, we have connected and empowered 1,000 children aged 9 to 13 and 100 teachers across the ocean through science, art, stories, and climate action and growing. These are the children who want to look onto a brighter future and are concerned about what's happening. And we didn't just stop there. We went into museums, schools, libraries, and into city centers, locally and internationally. We use social media, TV, radio, websites, and we reached 6 million people worldwide. We learned that to have impact at that high level, we have to be courageous and persistent. It was because of that courage and perseverance that our team could bring home the urgency to act to policymakers. And this is what happened to a UK minister in the UK Pavilion when he experienced theatre. He said, I went through a roller coaster of emotions throughout the performance. I went from anxiety to fear to joy to hope and back again. It has hit home to me the responsibility I have in my role to protect those future generations. Children and youth are anxious about the future, and rightly so. My second big learning is that we need to bring the voices and actions of children to the heart of COP if we want to create a thriving future for all. Let's listen to the children.
We're taking action. We have a vision.
I really like
like this book because like it's such a symbol of like our feelings to the ocean and like our thoughts.
We are the ocean.
There's so much more we can do. The way forward is stubborn optimism, action. Let's collaborate to create and restore what we love.
Yeah, we have questions there.
So, thank you. How do you train the children? Like, what is the process in terms of speaking, and like where do they go from and to in that confidence cycle?
Yeah, so let me share with you. Schools Across the Ocean program is a program where we twin schools. And we twin schools in the UK and the United Arab Emirates over a six-month period. And the children take part in creative workshops online, but they also start sharing stories about their communities, where they are, what it looks like, what is happening to the coastal communities. They also hear from scientists, they work with artists, and they work with creative writers, and they start to share those stories in digital platforms. And out of that body of stories, images, we co-create this anthology, which weaves the voices of 400 children with artwork and translates it into Arabic, because we took it to COP.
Do we have... yes.
How do you define success and how do you measure it?
That's a really good question. There's things we can measure and things we cannot measure. Success could be seen in the ways the children have engaged, the way that this experience has transformed their understanding of the ocean, how they feel empowered to take action in their communities, how they're talking about these issues with their families, with their community, the ripple effect. That's success. But there are things that we can't see. There's seeds that are planted when we are 10 to 12 that make you who you become. And I've learned at COP that many important people in those places, their experiences in primary have affected who they became.
We have one question here.
Could you shed a little bit of light on how inclusive this entire exercise is? Because I see that a lot of the communities that you've shown here, and also talking about COP28, of course it's a global exercise, but there are a lot of the communities that are excluded. So how do you include that in your exercise?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really important question. And when working with the schools, for example, we look at coastal schools both in the UK and the United Arab Emirates, where the last COP took place. And we were looking at schools who are more isolated, who perhaps have more social economic challenges, who would rarely be offered this opportunity. Schools also who spoke other languages, where we had a more diverse community of students. For some students, it was the first time they were connecting with children in other countries. And so it was about having different voices. Let's continue.
Thank you.